guys, and welcome back. My name's Audrey Shanson. I'm a watercolor artist and a watercolor teacher, and today is my kids' first day back at school, and I've already been just working on so many things this morning. I'm having like the greatest time. You know, quiet for the first time in a while is just sort of glorious. So here's what we're gonna paint today. These are just little like picture frames actually. And if you are not interested in a picture frame today, you could instead do the same thing. Don't cut out the center, and you can leave it for like a little message or something. So let's get into it. So here are the supplies that we need for today. It's most of the same stuff as normal. Any kind of a pencil. This is just a regular sort of #2 school pencil. I love a kneaded eraser. It doesn't leave markings on your paper. It doesn't leave shavings. It's just great to get one of those. You're going to need a felt tip pen for the end, or a micron pen or something like that will be great. This is a size 10 Winsor & Newton round watercolor brush. This is my favorite brush to use, and this is what I always teach with as well. We like it because it has the tip of the brush here, and it also has the belly of the brush, which is what holds the water. And we're going to need some watercolor paper. This is 140 pound cold press watercolor paper, and it's cut into a 3" by 3" little square here. Scissors. We're going to need scissors today, and if you have any that have a nice sharp point to them or that are just easier to use, that's probably a great idea. And then these are the paints I'm going to use. I can link this set below. And then we're going to need water, and I like to use a towel, but you can use paper towel if you want to instead. So this is what we've got, and I'm going to sort of move out of the way the things that I don't need, and we're going to begin. So all right, so the thing about this one, like you can notice right off the bat, these ovals are not the same size. The oval to me is the hardest part. Isn't that funny? Sometimes the simplest things, right? And these are not the same shape oval. They both turned out great, so I don't want us to worry about that too much. I will point out as we just make some observations that this is basically the same sketch. It just has some additions on this one later on. So these are circles and these are circles when we go to draw them. They both have the same leaves, but you see this one's roses and this one's oranges, and that's kind of a cool thing that we can do with drawing the same thing but turning it into something else. And let's see what else. I can kind of put maybe my fingernail, but not my whole finger, like above this and below it, because we want this to be a good enough size to be able to maybe use it. If you don't like this size, I mean, you can do this exact same thing on like a 5x7 and cut out the exact size that you want for your photo and everything too, but we're just gonna do this tiny one here. Oh, look, I just realized I didn't finish this little leaf. Okay. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We've got our pencil and our eraser. The most important thing I'm always going to say is that if we press lightly with our pencil, it's going to be easier to erase, which means you can just sort of let it start wonky and look at it and see what needs to be corrected. I picked this one, but the ovals are both just fine. And what I like to do is sort of put dots where I'm going so that I stay within the space that I want. So if it's true and it really is my fingernail, great. I'm going to put some sort of a mark up here. I'm using my fingernail to mark it, which means I kind of have to like put it there and then move my finger out of the way. And over here, I guess I could lay my finger flat, but like we don't all have the same size fingers, but that kind of gives you an idea. And look, they're not, it's not perfectly symmetrical. That's okay too. So I'll lay my finger on here, and I'm going to put a little straight line. And I'll just turn the paper around since I'm right-handed and do it again. I'm going to look though and go, is that good? Do I like it? This looks a little wide to me. What we want to do from here is create an oval. Now I said this is the hardest part. Okay, so like I'm not going to get this right on the first try either. Right now I'm sort of widening out some of these lines, straightening them out, because then all I have to do is sort of connect them this way. I'll do it down here too. And then again over here. See, all I'm doing is I put those there and I'm going to connect them. Wow. This, I'm not going to lie. I just did this before I did the video, and the last time it took me like 47 tries to get an oval. So if it does for you too, I just want to say I see you, and it's okay. But I feel like that one's actually okay. So now I'm going to decide. So see how we have one oval and another? So if your oval was very big, you might run the next line on the inside If it was small, you'd want to make it bigger by adding it on the outside, right? And this is called an aura, where we just run a line right alongside of it. I'm going to keep mine pretty narrow, and I'm going to come on the inside. And all I did to decide that, I was just kind of eyeball it and just guess, you know. What I want is this line to run. I'm going to turn my paper now to make it easier for myself. Always turn your paper to make it easier. And I'm actually going to start over here. It's fine. And we're going to connect it. What we want is equal distance between both of these all the way around. Just coming this way, following it, and we're pressing lightly. So if your line gets wonky somewhere, you can just correct it. Okay, that's imperfect, and I don't care. We don't worry about perfection over here, or everybody would just quit, you know. Okay, good enough for me. I'm gonna fix just that tiny part, so I guess almost good enough for me. There we go. We've got it. Now from here, remember I said everything is just a circle with 2 leaves. So you could decide, are you doing roses? Are you doing oranges? And it doesn't matter. I think I will do roses so that I can teach you how to layer our color here. But you have options for sure. You could look at this one and copy exactly where they are, or you can do them anywhere you want. What I like is that some of them you can see fully, and some of them are running off the page, which gives the idea that it's a full sheet of wallpaper behind this frame that holds the artwork, okay? So I'll do one. I'm just gonna sort of copy what I see. So that's an imperfect circle. Great. I'm gonna curve out to a point, out to reach that point, and do one more. Sometimes these are like sad face, smiley face. Whatever helps you make sense of it is great. I'll do another one here. I want them to be kind of the same size, but not exactly. And I'm just going around my paper and looking on here to where I see a rose. I'm going to draw some sort of a circle. I'm going to come out from the rose to a point, curve it back. Same thing here. There's one cut off and one over here, so I'll do this one first. Starting at the rose and away. I like how this one's sort of cut off by the frame, right? Because the frame would be overlapping some of them if this was wallpaper. I kind of wish I had wallpaper like this. I'm thinking about painting a mural in my house. And I think I just need to do it because, I mean, it's just painting, but big, right? I think I need one more here. So this is what I'm looking at is balance, right? And I see like, oh, there's kind of nothing here and there's some extra space. So when we get to that part, we want to just kind of maybe add in either the end of a leaf. So just right, the edge of something, or over here, I could even do maybe like this, and that's going to be part of a rose. So you're just looking, where do you need to fill in? That's all. Here, I'll even stick one out like that. One right here. It does not matter. And then we're going to look at it and see what we think. You don't actually need to add any pencil markings on the inside of these roses. What they are is they're little half circles that start small and get wider. That's it. So if you wanted to do those now, you could. And just because we have a pencil, why don't I show you? Little half circle. I'm going to go a different direction, make a little bit of a bigger half circle. Maybe another one over here, and I'm done. And I like to do them random. Like, I don't want it to be too perfect. So little half circle, another one somewhere, another one somewhere else. And I guess I am putting it to 3. That one's 2. Okay. 1, 2. But they should be smaller in the center, bigger as they go out. You can put them in now because then you can erase it if you don't like it, or you can just wait till later and do it with paintbrush. And if you like your sketch, we're done with the pencil and eraser. So I'm going to move mine out of my way. And we're going to start mixing up our paints. So usually I have my paint palette totally cleared off before we get here. And we mix our puddles together. We're still going to mix them together, but this time I left my puddle with all the colors I had just previously worked with, because at home I don't actually create new puddles every single time. I work with what I have. I choose colors that I like on here, and let's say I needed a space for red and I didn't have it, I might take a paper towel and clear this off and just put red here. But then we don't waste our paints, which is kind of cool. You can just dip your brush into the water like I just did and rehydrate your puddle like this, and you're good to go. But I am gonna do blue, but I think I'm gonna do a lighter blue than this a little bit. So here's how I'll do it. I will take my brush, put it into the water, and pick a color. I'll take my brush and swipe my brush around, swipe it onto the palette, and then I'll add a little bit more water onto my brush and come back, and that's a puddle. Okay, and I'm going to show you with another color too. I'm going to clean my brush out. Let's see this one right here. I'm going to, so because I have this color, I'm just dipping my brush into the water and I can add it and rehydrate it and I'm good to go. But if I didn't have a puddle here, I would have my brush wet from the water. I would get some of this bright green or any kind of green that you like, put it onto here, go back and add a little bit of water because this needs to be a puddle. The point in creating these ahead of time, there's a couple reasons. One, we're choosing our colors and we want to make sure we like them so we can see them here, which is great. Two, we're adding water so that they're really easy to work with. And three, when we get over here and we start painting, it's about timing because watercolor is water drying, right? So that gives you a time limit. So once we've done all the work here, it means you don't have to be mixing and hurrying up over here while things are drying. So there's lots of good reasons for these puddles. I think, okay, you see how this is pink instead of red? These are just little changes you can make. These are red. If you like these colors, you're mixing those up right now. I'm going to dip my brush into the water and I'm going to get some pink though. I'm going to add it up here. And if it's too dark, I will add water because water is what makes our colors lighter in watercolor. And if you're going to do the roses like this, your first layer is going to be the background. It'll fully dry and you'll add a dark color on top. So if I'm making pink right now, I don't want it to be too dark because I still want to see another layer on top of it. Make sense? So I've got blue, green, and pink. You mix up your colors, and if you get them onto here and you don't like them, this is where you change them. Maybe you wanted this color green instead. Go for it. Maybe mix a little bit of blue into your green and see what happens. Okay? Now we're going to work around our little page, because in watercolors, if you were to paint right next to something that's wet, your colors are all going to bleed and it's going to be a big mess. So we're going to start with our red or our pink, and we're going to do our frame, and we're going to do our circles. So here we go with that. Taking my brush. So we want to control how much water. I'm going to tell you exactly what I'm doing. I cleaned out my brush in the water. I'm going to dry it on my towel, which is like this. Dry it, okay? I'm going to take that brush into this puddle. And notice I just put maybe the first third or half of this brush into the puddle and that's it. If I filled it up and loaded it, I'd have too much water and I would lose control really quickly. So I'm going to take this. I'm going to run the tip of my brush around the edge, but I'm also going to, put pressure, like lean into the brush to get into the belly of the brush. And you see what I'm doing? I'm just going around. I'm going to fill them all in. So down here, tip of my brush along the edge and push into the belly of your brush to fill the whole thing in. We don't want to be really precious and slow about it. Tip of your brush along the edges. I'm just filling in all of our roses. And you got to look at what you put on the edges and see what's going on here. If it should be green or if it should be pink. So that's how I did mine. And if right now I was like, oh shoot, I should have put another one in there, I could take my brush and I'll just stick one right here. And I could go like this. I didn't have to, draw it in pencil first. It's okay. Now from here, I actually want to darken up my pink. I like a little bit of just difference between the two, so I added more paint to my brush and mixed that in, and you see how it got darker. So the puddle is the same size, but there's more paint in it. And I don't want to touch any wet paint here, so I'll be careful. I'll put my finger right where it's dry, and I'm going to run my brush in this. I want to fill in this little frame. So using a paintbrush is about pressure, and it's how much you're pushing down is how wide the brush is. So because it's not very wide of a little frame we created, you're not going to be pushing too hard on your brush. You're going to watch the sides though and make sure you're keeping it nice, clean, straight sides. I said that as it got a little wobbly, but that's okay, right? We don't care. coming around here. And you notice I went higher because I didn't want you to be able to tell where it had started to dry. So kind of if the whole thing can be wet at the same time, that means it can dry at the same time. Cute, right? You can see right here my line got a little out of control. So I'm going to turn this to make it easier for myself. And I'm going to use the tip of my brush to make this a little bit wider. It's a lot easier than trying to lift up extra paint. So if that ever happens, just make it a little bit wider. Use the tip of your brush to clean it up. All right, here we are. I think this is the direction I originally had it. Always in supplies, I forget to mention it, but if you have a little hair dryer or like a heat gun, that's really helpful right now. I'm going to give this a quick dry because, well, mine's almost dry, but I'm not sure if yours is. So all your pink needs to be dry before you can get into your green. So we're going to give it a quick dry. And if you don't have a dryer, you can just wait until it's dry too, but I'll show you too, because these are both wet. My frame bled into my rose. I'm just not going to worry about that. But if you always want to protect from that, it just has to be fully dry. Okay, I'm cleaning my brush out. I'm going to get into my green paint. Once again, just maybe the top third of my paintbrush, because if I got too much, it would feel out of control. And these are actually small spaces. So, tip of my brush. And you can really, do you see how I'm just kind of going outside, outside, fill it in. Outside, outside, fill it in. I mean, you can do pressure, push, and you're basically done. Right? It'd be less pressure, a little more pressure as you get to the wider part. But it does not matter how you fill these in. There is no test. No one will know. Do it any way you want. And I'm just getting all these filled in. I call this coloring book style, right? There's no technique in particular. It's just trying to stay within the lines. And notice right here, I didn't stay in the lines, and that doesn't bother me one bit. You can tell I'm not really bothered by a lot, I guess. Okay, now I hate to have to go right back and forth to the dryer, but because we know we're getting into the background next, and we're going to work around all of this stuff. If these were wet, color bleeds. So one more quick dry. The way to know if yours needs dried, and I did just dry mine right now, but if you lift it up like this and you look at it in the light, if it's reflective, it needs to dry. If you don't see the light reflecting, you're good to go. So I cleaned out my brush again. I'm going to get into this color, and I just now decided, ooh, I want a little green. I'm going to add a little bit of that teal into it and just change the color slightly. Don't forget, you can do this anytime you want, and those little changes are, I mean, that's art. That's artist choice right there. Okay, I'm going to zoom in. My camera's a little wobbly. And we're going to start to fill this in. What I want you to keep in mind is we're going to keep this moving like one puddle that starts here. We're going to just kind of go one direction with it, keep moving it around. It doesn't matter which way you go, but ideally you do it somewhat quickly so that it's not drying as you go. Because if it starts to dry here and dry here and dry here, it's going to look messy because watercolor is transparent, and it sort of just leaves, it just shows where it's been, you know? So I've got maybe half my brush full this time. Or a little more than that of my paint. And from here, I'm going to start to go around these shapes. I'm going to decide one way to go and go that way. So I guess it's going to be towards me today. What I need to know is when I get in between these little leaves, I want to go light on the tip of my brush. Okay, that's how you're going to get into those tight spaces. But notice how wet it is. It's like moving a puddle around. And I like to repeat that because thinking of it that way ensures that it's kind of shiny and glossy, right? It's not drying while you work, because that's what makes it look messy later. I'm holding some spot that's dry just for some sort of security on my end. And notice that when I get around these tight, you know, these little spaces that matter, the tight spots, I'm lifting up on my brush and releasing some of the pressure. Otherwise, you're going to end up going over your other colors, and that's fine. It just ends up looking just a little bit messier that way. And honestly, I love watercolor, and if you showed this to me after you did it and your blue went over your green a little bit, you know, it's still beautiful. I'm still going to think it's beautiful. Like, I think people worry a lot about what if you see my pencil lines, or what if my sketch isn't perfect, and I think you just need to not worry about the little things and just keep painting. And eventually, as you'll go, you'll decide which things you do care about and which things you don't. But in my paintings, you can see pencil all everywhere, and I love it. And I always, since I was a kid, I love seeing like anything that shows the history of the artwork. So I like to see the sketch below the painting, and I like to see squiggly lines for things, and I just think it's all so interesting. So I never feel the need to hide my pencil lines or anything like that. Cool, I did it. Okay, I got all the way to this end. So it's puddling a little bit here. I'm going to clean my brush in my water. I just dried it on my towel, and remember, that's like this on a towel. 1, 2, dry. And then right now I'm going to set it right here, lift it up. That's it. It was fast, wasn't it? Because if I went like this or held it there a long time, it's really going to dry that too much. And I really want to quickly lift some, but give space for it to fill right back in with just a little bit less of the paint. We did it. So the paint part is done. You guessed it. We're going to give it one more dry. Actually, the paint part is not done. Aha, and we don't even have to dry it yet. Joke's on me. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you my paints this time as well. We want to get these little lines on our roses. These little lines here, and notice they're kind of just going right where our pencil was. So I'm taking my brush, going right into that pink. I need a tiny puddle, but it needs to move freely. Do you see this? That's moving freely still. I'm going to just not touch the blue because it's not dry, and I'm going to carefully hold on to this because that is dry, and just go over these. Boop, boop, boop. Just like that, no big deal. Now, if you thought these lines were too dark, you can change your color by just adding a little bit of, you can swipe some here and add some water to it. Remember to still keep your water under control. But I don't care how dark they are. If I've got 2 tones, I'm feeling good. Add some into these ones on the corners too. And now those look like flowers. So now I'll clean out my brush. And a lot of it is dry, but I see the light reflecting, and I'll show that to you. See how much the light is reflective in these couple spots. So we'll give it a quick dry right now. I love seeing the differences here. And this is like just me doing the same thing 3 times. And I love to make small adjustments every time I do it. Usually I like it better and better. So now we are ready for the scissors. I'm going to move the paint out of the way. Before we get to the ink, I want to first cut this out. So this is funny. I was feeling self-conscious about this part because, like, I don't know, I don't teach people how to cut things, right? And you probably don't need to be taught. But this is how my mom taught me. Right? Take this part, stab it through the center. Make sure your fingers aren't in the way. Then I'm going to cut straight to the end. You just don't want to let this thing bend too much, okay? I'm going to turn it over and cut to the other side, all the way to that end, and then over here as well. These are really good scissors. They're like Fiskars. They're like my sewing scissors. If anybody's got sewing scissors at home, those are good. And then from here, once I have all that, that's going to give me some flexibility that I'm not going to sort of bend and rip things too much. And then I'll take and cut very carefully along the inside of my frame. I don't know if you guys have noticed my nails are 5 different colors today, but my kids were getting ready for back to school last night, and my oldest is a senior, and she did 5 different colors, and I was like, I'm copying you. And I stole her idea so I could be twins with her. and here we are. Okay, we're getting there. Once we get this done, you're going to want to probably touch it up. Almost there. And it's not going to be perfect, and that's okay. Man, how many times do I say that? I really don't want you guys worrying about perfection. I just think it's what makes people not have fun during creating, you know? All right, I can see a whole bunch of like white paper right there, but that's okay. That's why we cut first, and then we're gonna do our ink after. And if there was anything bigger, I might cut it off. Like I could cut off right here. I don't know, I guess I'll do just a little bit. But we're gonna do the ink, and it's gonna sort of cover that stuff anyway. I just cut off barely any. Here is our felt tip pen. And so we're gonna do, let's start with the actual frame. I'll go to the outside. And I often say, like, you don't have to go exactly around what you did. You can also clean it up at the same time, but you usually want some sort of a mix. I don't know if anyone wants to be very close to me while I sketch, but I'm zooming in for you. And I like to just turn my paper. Don't draw what you can't see, you know? But then you just have to match up your lines neat and clean if you can. And I like to do this outside one first. Now you could go over this a couple times. It just depends on how thick you want it to be. If you used a Sharpie, it would be even fatter. And what's funny about that is it would cover up more like mistakes, right? Because, well, not that there's mistakes, but you know what I mean. Fatter line. Okay, got that done. Good enough for me. Now I want to get in here, and I don't really want to draw on my, okay, that's like ink, but I don't really want to draw on my board here, so I'm just going to put paper underneath of it, and see I'm going back and forth carefully here, and that's going to sort of cover up the paper. So this is kind of thick paper, right? So by doing it this way, after you cut it, you can kind of disguise the white a little bit more. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but I have like a water feature in my house now because I moved my turtle tank home. So my turtles, Zoe and Joey, are here, and as the water level goes down, which it always does, and we have to add water, it's like having a fountain in my living room. I mostly like it. Okay, got this one done. Great. Now we're gonna go over, so you're deciding, I mean, if you did the centers, then they're already flowers. If you decided not to, then you can do like this for oranges. And I'm gonna kind of get this real close for you. I did not do the ink exactly where the paint is. Do you see that? I just went loosey-goosey on it. So if you can go loosey-goosey and do a little scribble, honestly, I think that turns out great. I'll leave it right here. And I'm gonna go, so now I'm gonna change this shape a little. You could follow your pencil exactly, or see, you can sort of curve it more. And then sort of like you did, it's some curves. I'll show you on the back. So if it's like this, I might do like this, you know, just maybe not a perfect spiral, just a little bit like this. Honestly, think scribble. I think scribble gets you there better than perfection when we're at this part. Or you can follow the lines you already put on. So that's up to you. And if you're not sure, then before you do this part, I do think sometimes it's nice to just get out a scrap piece of paper and decide what shape you're gonna do before you're locked into it. So, see, scribble. And you can practice that scribble on your other paper. But yeah, I'm just kind of curving the outside a little bit. It's funny, if you start to look at, you know, greeting cards and notebooks and all the things that have these illustrations on them, you really will find that no one needs perfection. Like, look here, look at all that space around it. You could think, oh, the blue should get all the way to the green, but who cares? A little bit of this. Okay, we're almost done. I'm going to tell you guys I'm working on Inktober right now. I have 30 paintings in 30 days, and they will include watercolor tips and tricks, which I'm really excited about. And so that's coming up. If you want to plan on it, that was all 30 days. Oh, I think there's 31 days, but we do 30 days in October. You've done your frame. Okay, so I did something fun, and I printed out some pictures ahead of time that are tiny. It's my family from camping. Look how cute that is. It worked, didn't it? And we'll do another one. I'm going to show you a few. That's me and Kelly, if anybody follows Kelly on YouTube. with her Zentangle. Beautiful, huh? And let's try another one. So you can just print out these little pictures at home. And I'm like, this is cute. You could just have these hanging on your bathroom mirror or stick it in your car or something. You could try to match. That one matches really well. But anyways, fun, right? Thanks for hanging out with me today. I'll see you next time. Oh, and if you want to ring a bell, I think you get notifications that way. And you can subscribe to see more of these videos.